in methodology, we're trying to, I suppose, achieve something that cities naturally develop over time. But in this case, we're having to substitute the normal organic development of a city, and especially in relationship to such an extraordinary city as Segovia, we are having to artificially, I suppose, create the complexity that normally has the benefit of time and history. For that to be successful, we have needed the good collaboration of our partner architects, which I'm glad to say we received and we've enjoyed. So I think it's been a very interesting process for different architects to work together. There's a sense that architects are not capable of working together, that they're so individualistic and they're so concerned with their own projects that they don't collaborate. I think it's really untrue. I think we're all capable of collaborating, and I think this is an exercise in that. So I'll briefly give some thoughts as to how the project developed. The site is a privileged site physically. It has a wonderful view, it has a wonderful location. But urbanistically, it is quite isolated. It's detached from the urban structure of the city, on the periphery. So we don't benefit from the fantastic history of the city itself. We can borrow from its spirit, but we can't necessarily borrow from its structure, because we are not in an urban space. We are in a space on the edge of the city. However, we have this fantastic view. The privilege is the view and the geography of the site. We need to consider, so I don't know whether you can see, the site is a small red box. Okay, just go back. So we need to consider how this satellite, separated from the city itself, can achieve the status of being a place, not just a series of buildings isolated on the edge of the city. So the first diagram, this is a diagram that shows all of the different activities. We have a shopping center, we have a hotel, we have a congress center, we have restaurants, we have office research, and we have a museum. The components are rich and are the components one would look for if we are trying to make a strong urban project. In other words, there are components that are not just commercial. I mean, many similar projects are problematic. We have a problem? Are problematic because they're dominated by only commercial elements. I think the balance in this of museum and conference, and also bringing a hotel, makes this mix very rich. This is a diagram that shows the proportion of activities. Each of these boxes represents an activity, and our first intuition that the uses should somehow create an equivalence in terms of public space. In other words, the master plan must be a balance between making buildings and making space. We believe that it's necessary to make good public spaces as the heart, as the thing which holds the project together. That the architecture can do an enormous amount in binding the project, but the public space, which in this case is represented by the black hole in the middle, I can actually point. No, I can't. The space in the middle is, the black in the middle is a space. We can take that diagram and we can say, instead of just simple volumes and a simple urban space, maybe the volumes, the buildings can become more complex, and maybe the public space can be more complex. Maybe it's not one simple square, maybe it's a series of spaces. And it's possible to imagine that sequence of spaces, and again I repeat that the public space are the black things inside. I mean, this is a very diagrammatic concept at this point, but this was the basis of the competition. The idea that you have a series of buildings, and these buildings are held together by internal space, by internal public space. And the concept for the competition was this, that each of these blocks, each of these colored blocks represents a building, and the spaces inside represent squares and gardens. The double line represents the idea of a colonnade or a covered walking area that links all the projects together. So we tried to generate a diagram that allowed the flexibility of each of the blocks to develop, but within an overall concept of public space. There are a few challenges on the site. One of the problems of the site is it slopes very, very steeply, so we have to consider how does the master plan cope with the topography of the site. If we were to keep one level, we would have a problem at one end. Clearly we don't want to do that. So in the end, we have a project which negotiates and steps down the topography, down the hill, and is unified by a single roof, by a single geometry of